This is TPG Live, and I am Jeremy Horn, also known as the Product Guy. We're about to begin. This is your stage, no matter where you are in your product journey, from startups to Fortune 500s, interns to CEOs. We're a global community that values every voice. TPG Live is a show where everyone, both on and off camera, is encouraged to join in and shape the conversation with your insights, your questions, and your topics. Just hop into the chat room and I will strive to include as many of your comments as possible within the broader discussion in real time. Today, the on-camera portion of our roundtable is joined by Christopher Lee. With over 14 years of experience in product management, Christopher has helped organizations build better products at such places as Ernst & Young and Wipro Digital. Now, as Senior Product Manager and Product Coach at Product Coach Labs, he's focused on mentoring the next generation of product managers. And Paul Wright is a product leader and ecosystem strategist with over 25 years of experience across media, finance, technology, and civic sectors. He's developed AI-powered vendor networks at Stimulus and led award-winning digital media initiatives. Now Paul can be found at Lift Forward, where, as Vice President of Global Ecosystem and Analytics, he has driven billions in global sales. He's also a civic tech advocate, having launched Open Data Philly, scaled Every Block into a hyperlocal SaaS platform, and driven smart cities and DE benchmarking initiatives. We're also joined by Carol C., an AI ethics researcher and leader with expertise in product management and engineering, from C programming to serverless tech. Carol is currently leading an AI engineering team at PhilTech focused on long-term upskilling. She previously spent time as Cascadio, driving AI ops SaaS innovation. Today on TPG Live, is product development entering a new chapter of responsibility and endurance? With increasing focus on ethical innovation and adaptability, product managers are facing a unique opportunity to redefine success. And what does it take to ensure your products not only perform today, but also create meaningful change for the future? Join us in the chat room and at the roundtable as we discuss all this and much more coming up next on TPG Live. Before we get started, quick reminder. You can support The Product Way on Patreon and enjoy some amazing benefits. For less than the price of a coffee, and you know how I love coffee, you'll get access to real-world PM strategies and case studies, tools designed to help you solve your toughest challenges and elevate your career. Looking for even more? Higher tiers unlock exclusive benefits like one-on-one mentoring, resume feedback, shout-outs, and priority access to premium resources crafted for product professionals like you. So join us at patreon.com/theproductway to support the show and keep the content you love coming your way. Now let's get started. Your go-to platform for all things product management, connecting you with industry leaders, trendsetters, and a global community of insights and unique perspectives. This is The Product Way. Hello. Welcome everyone. Carol, Chris, Paul. Anything you'd like to correct in the little opening that I did all about you?
I guess for me,
sounds good from my perspective.
Yeah, I'm currently doing my master's, so I'm currently unemployed. So just in case.
All right. So without any other corrections, let's jump right into the question of the show. Today's question of the show is, what's one buzzword you think should be retired from product management? For that one, let me start with you, Paul.
So for me, I would love for us to stop using the term war room when we are launching new products and the first day of those products. It sounds so aggressive and violent, and it's really not a war room. We're there to introduce something we love and that have worked hard on, and teams have worked hard on, into the wild, right? And we're looking for feedback. I think of it more like a classroom, because like, oh my God, did all this work finally pay off for us? So I'd love to stop using the word war room if we can as product managers.
All right, I like that. And so you want to call it a classroom instead?
To me, that's what it is. I don't know if that's the right word to use it, but that's how I feel it is, because I can guarantee you this. Every launch I've ever done over too many years, I I literally learn something new every time that I did not learn in testing. And so it is out in the wild, and the feedback and the real-time action and the usability and all that stuff comes into play. So it's absolutely a learning day, and sometimes extending to a learning week when you need to plug some holes.
Awesome. Carol?
I guess it's viral and 10x. So if we're talking about sustainability, I do want people to stop thinking that they can get like millions of dollars in 10 minutes or less. So
All right. Chris?
I don't have very strongly held opinions on this one, but and I think, Carol and, everyone shared some, good ideas here, but I think North Star metric, it's very overused and often misapplied. Many teams are chasing a single number without considering the broader context or trade-offs. And product success is very about one metric. It's about balancing multiple levers to drive, which is the title of this talk, sustainable impact.
Absolutely.
All right. I like that. So, hold on. There we go. All right. So I wanted to have some fun with this one, kind of lean into maybe something a little bit more controversial. My buzzword that I think should be retired, roadmap. I get it. Roadmaps, they feel important, like our GPS. They're supposed to get us exactly where we're going. But let's be real. They're usually more like checking the weather forecast. We look at them. We plan around them. Deep down, we know they're probably wrong. Yet we're looking at them anyway, hoping they'll suddenly become accurate. Instead, and now hear me out. This is kind of the important part. Maybe we should just admit that product management is messy, unpredictable, and changes all the time. I don't know. It's not about a perfect plan. It's about being ready to adapt, adjusting to new information, and staying open-minded. So I guess instead of roadmap, maybe we should call them adventure guides, quest logs, or I don't know. If we want to stick with the weather analogy, we could go with today's product weather report. And this would remind us to stay flexible and always prepared for changing conditions. Ultimately, product management, it's not about rigidly following a predetermined forecast. It's about adaptability, discoverability, embracing uncertainty, all in the pursuit of discovering impactful outcomes. So I suppose let's embrace honesty and flexibility. Let's retire the buzzword roadmap. So that's kind of where I landed. I kind of, like I said, I wanted to have a little bit more fun with what needed to be retired, and see if we can get some debate going on.
Yeah, with that in mind, I like your analogy. I'd go with instead of roadmap, it's choose your adventure. As
choosing your own adventure.
Type of story.
You attribute so much more control than I normally would to a roadmap. So for those of you joining us in the chat room, what I like to consider is the off-camera part of our roundtable. If you have questions, if you have comments, just drop them into the chat at any point during today's conversation. I'll work them into the conversation. If it's not perfectly topical, that's not a problem. I'll still try to make sure we get to it. I might just kind of save it for a little bit later in the talk. So to really get things started off, want to throw out the first question here, and that's, what does sustainability in product development and product management mean to you? How does it show up in your own work? Paul, I'd like to start with you on this one.
Yeah, so as you mentioned at the outset, I work for Lift Forward, which is a middleware company. So what we do is we tie together retailers, brands like Microsoft and Apple are clients, and lenders and banks to try to tie together what we call upgrade programs, subscription programs, or financing programs. And the reason we started that, and the reason that we really embrace the idea of sustainability, and the other buzzword that goes along with that in terms of business, is the circular economy. And we really our whole platform is dedicated to allowing those three entities to come together to form programs, so I can walk into a Best Buy, get Apple products, say, for example, for a couple years, and then be able to upgrade them in a couple years. And so what that does is we're tied not only to those folks, but to the asset disposition folks and things like that, so that those products, those services don't go into e-waste. They don't go into, hopefully not into your garbage or something like that after you've used them, but they get back into the secondary market, can be recycled and reused. In the worst case, if they're beat up, they get recycled in the right way. If they are obviously still usable, and usually most are after only a couple years, they get put back into the secondary market and can be continually used. So ideally, keep that circular economy rolling in an easy, simple way. So it's actually at the core, really, of what we do and what our platform is geared to accomplish.
Great. Carol, same question.
I guess so. In terms of as a product manager, right? Like you always talk about experimentation, releasing fast and experimenting fast. But in the cloud ops space, we also talk about like what are you releasing, what services are you utilizing for these products that you're building, and what are the benefits, right? Like how do you offset utilizing 10 servers at the same time just for the benefit of 2 users who are using it 2 hours a day, right? Like what's the actual cost benefit to humanity when it comes to building certain products, and how could it harm different people in the ecosystem as well? Like how do you balance all those on top of how do you get the money to pay for all these services as well?
Excellent. So how do you balance sustainability with business objectives like profitability, growth? Chris?
Yeah, that's a very loaded question nowadays in this day and age. I'm gonna tread carefully as I answer that. So when I was at a former company I worked at, Ernst & Young, my day job was at the consulting firm, but I also did volunteer work with our green team, our Eco Innovators, which was our internal corporate sustainability initiative. And we looked at things like our office buildings, were they LEED certified, which they were, many of them, gold and platinum LEED certified, and also what the carbon footprint was that our employees were generating in the office or at home. And, under the previous administration, there was more regulatory requirements around the environment coming from the EPA. And so firms had to hire more reputable audit firms to make sure that they were compliant with those sustainability practices, and that they weren't running afoul of the law. So I would say bare minimum that's where you would start at. It was also a lot of good PR if you were able to, get to net zero or reduce your carbon emissions. Some of those companies were probably doing more greenwashing than the others, but one of my concerns is that with the advent of AI, sorry, Carol, not to criticize AI, I love AI, but it requires a lot of compute power and GPUs, even with DeepSeek being supposedly more efficient. It's kind of paradoxical. There's been a much more increased demand for GPUs, and it's sort of, I almost think, wiped out some of the gains that were had in the high-tech companies that had some of these goals and set in place.
I think there's no doubt. I think it fully wiped out and then went a few orders of magnitude beyond at this point. Paul, do you have something that you'd like to add to about balancing sustainability with business objectives?
No, it's a good point. I think Chris's points are good ones, especially on the power consumption side. In always tackling that question, I'm learned over the years to be pragmatic about it, in the sense of again, thinking of what we do on a day-to-day basis. Thinking of I spent a lot of time working with the public sector as an advisor or consultant in different areas of tech, and whether it's the public side or the private side, I found that any objectives, especially on a sustainability side, or things that feel to some people like they're not part of the core objectives, even though they should be, it's tying them to those core business objectives in a way that's easy for people to understand. So, for example, it's easy for me to use, Ford as an example. Like when we are, working with a client, whether it's a merchant or a large entity like a Microsoft or an Apple or something like that, it doesn't take a lot of convincing, because it's in the sense of what does a process like upgrade to keep that your devices that you make every day and are popular, out of the landfills, and continue to be in the hands of people, which is the good social objective and sustainability objective, but it's also a good business objective as well, because it's going to keep your products out there more. You get another wave of users, another wave of customer relationships. And so that's a really easy way for me to say it, but I try to approach it that way in all cases, which is, hey, I really want these civic goals, these sustainability goals. I know, DEI goals, when they were allowed to have them, but I want to tie them so that you don't have to make that decision, but you tie them to the business goals as well. And so to me, whether it's convincing a board, convincing leadership, inspiring your team, kind of want to, you don't have to choose one. To me, it's try to combine them both into, not to overuse the word, but a sustainable business going forward.
Gotcha. Chris, you wanted to jump back in?
Yeah, I just wanted to add a quick point. When I was at Eco Innovators, one thing that we were able to convince the executive C-suite to implement globally was a policy on travel. During COVID, a lot of the clients and our company recognized that you could sort of reduce your air travel and save money and still work effectively and not be maybe 100% on site, which we sort of were much at the time, flying back and forth every week. So that really reduced a lot of the carbon emissions, and it was a relatively easy sell for the CEO to take in and chairman. And so that was an easy win, I would say.
Was it an easy win just because, hey, I have to pay for less travel?
Yeah.
Not so much about the environment being, I guess, a nice side effect there. I guess that, in contrast to the new Starbucks CEO who takes a jet to work every day, or something to that effect. What else, like Carol, like when you're looking at sustainability and business objectives, what have you seen the kind of balancing it, or even setting what some of those business objectives should be?
Yeah, I guess when it comes to like documentations, right? You have to, I know you hate it, but you have to think about the roadmap in terms of like how do you actually look at the long-term strategy rather than the short-term strategies. So like again, I think as mentioned by Paul, like if you're looking at increasing your customer base to 100 from 20, then you have to think about how do I retain my customers by being sustainable, by doing sustainable practices, right? Rather than, I think, as I've mentioned, when you hit a viral post, you're not going to get 100 people on your app for like 100 days. Most likely you'll get them on your platform for 2 days, but not long term. So if we're talking about sustainability, it's more than just how does it affect the ecosystem, but like how do you make it, how do you have that long-term relationship with your people, with your customers, with your staff, with the environment around you, that it's not, harmful as well to people.
So,
and I would also say that, to that point, there's a tide, right, directly between, sustainable practices and also getting to that theme of the business goals of cost reduction as well, which is our CTO and our team and the whole engineering team just went through I think almost like a week-long exercise, kind of looking at our database usage and how, like, do we need so much at certain times? And, because of, great tools like AWS and Heroku and all these guys, you can spin up things and kind of keep them running all the time. There's a dollar obviously associated with that, but it's real easy to kind of forget that. And to their credit, they went through a painstaking, daily like scrum meeting about how much do we need, can we turn this down, can we reduce the the validation environment down to some and keep the product. And it was I said I didn't really have a lot to offer because they were really into the nuts and bolts, but I thought it was a fantastic exercise, and it gets to right where you're talking about, which is we sometimes forget that as Carol was saying, that power usage is easy to forget as you're just like, oh, I want performance. But the tools underneath, the cloud tools underneath, are so sophisticated now that you can really micro target what that means without sacrificing performance where it counts, but saving power usage and those type of things.
Do you guys see this do you see when I'm talking about balancing sustainability and business objectives, do you see this as trade-offs? Like, hey, I want to reach these goals, but we need to do this. Or are you seeing some business objectives that it's more an added value, where accomplishing business goal X is very well in line with sustainability or environmental goals that'll actually drive new users or engagement, reduce churn, improve retention, those types of metrics?
Yeah,
I guess. Sorry, go ahead.
no, you go.
Carol,
I
Carol,
guess
you go first.
probably not, right? Like, again, I think as mentioned a while ago, it's not 1:1, right? Like, you don't need one to get the other one, or you don't cancel out sustainability just because you're getting good business objectives. So there can be ways to make it work both ways, but there are also times when it's just good for business, right? And you sometimes need that as well. Like, I mean, as a product manager, you also know that the dollar amount is kind of important to keep your product going. So you kind of need to get those people with the funding on board. And not everyone's on board with the sustainability as of now, but you can always add it to your conversation, right? Like, how do you ensure that the people you're working with are actually thinking about the environment as well?
Paul?
Yeah, I don't see them as an either or at all. I mean, I think part of it, going past just the metrics, et cetera, some of it comes down to, what are your company values? And what do how do you want to be in business, and how do you want to operate? And, hopefully most companies have thought about that and kind of have that as part of their DNA in terms of how they operate. So for us, it's, not an either or in terms of, oh, well, we want to do X, Y, and Z, but we can't because, turn too much power, et cetera. Instead, we look at it as, hey, we need to achieve X. We're expanding to a country in Europe, or we're adding a new partner or a program. How do we do that most efficiently? And that efficiency, as I was saying earlier, is both cost and time efficiency, but that also translates into sustainability efficiency. So we may not always explicitly say, hey, this is also our sustainability goal, but it's just part of the decision process when we're trying to be, as efficient as possible as we scale.
Got you. So we mentioned cost. We've mentioned a few things that leadership might be interested in. Less business travel, for example. What are some of the best ways to get leadership and stakeholders to buy in on sustainability efforts? Chris?
I think it goes back to what Paul was saying, which is explicitly highlight the benefits, what's in it for them, as a former colleague used to tell me. Whether it's cost savings or not getting the regulators on your case, and any other public relations benefits.
Well, I think we got rid of all the regulators, so we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah,
anymore.
I mean, but then there's also state regulaters that half of them are still around, so you kind of want to manage your risk, and also there might be a public outcry if something negative happens. So those are all things, I guess, put it all in your RAID report and all things to consider. That's a way to sell it. And then also you'll want to, if your organization doesn't already have an internal green team, maybe take the initiative and proactively start one, and work together to build a solid business case for why you think your organization should do a particular sustainability initiative, or why it's mission critical that your government relations works with legislators to enact a particular proposal. Why does the company benefit? They do want to see the the business dollar amount associated with implementing such a proposal. So, yeah.
Does an internal green team, is this something that you're seeing in companies more and more? I'd say it's been sparse in my own experience, but are you seeing internal green teams in digital products, other types of products out there?
More in corporations. Startups just don't have the time and money and resources to implement such an initiative. At least not early stage startups.
And where do they belong in the org? Is it ops? Is it marketing?
Many of them are just volunteer type organizations, and they may not even be formally structured anywhere. For example, we had our sustainability practice, which was billable. We had our internal ESG practice, which implemented some of the things that the internal green team worked on. So I guess you could say it rolled up to the office operations. And then there's also the volunteer organization, which was adjacent to the internal ESG internal practice. But yeah, those were all 4 separate groups that I'm talking about. But yeah, many of these, they're 100% not paid, but then I'm sure they have some like real estate people that they work with and internal ESG people that work with that are on payroll.
Gotcha. And you mean they're just not billable hours? These are still
exactly.
These are employees of the company, and I say that for people not familiar with the consulting space that might
Sure.
be listening and thinking that people are randomly working for free for companies. Paul, Carol, what's your experience with this?
I guess in terms of that, right? Like coming off from what Chris said, like in a startup environment, it's actually easy. Well, not easy, but in terms of like getting someone on board from a leadership team, like you just need one person, right? Who's also into sustainability, who knows the best practices, who understands the risks involved of not being environmental forward. So you just need that one stakeholder who will be on your side or the environment side, so that there's someone who will be able to bring it forward to like leadership conversations, stakeholder conversations, like just have those people on your end, right? So yeah.
Yep. Paul, have you seen these internal green teams anywhere in practice?
I in my previous life, yeah, when I worked for larger companies than I do right now. I mean, Live4 is about a dozen years old, so we're small but mighty, but we don't have a green team ourselves. But when I worked for Comcast and large entities like that, absolutely, you would have. I don't know if they're officially called green teams, but certainly you had pockets of affinity groups and things like that that would focus on specific initiatives. And I would also say that another hook for leadership. I know we've been talking about the business results and business metrics, which are absolutely essential. But there's also a compliance side, which is for our company, for example, we I guess officially operate in the fintech world, in the embedded finance world. So we work with we integrate with a lot of different folks, and whenever you integrate with someone, you go through quite the deep audits of everything, and that includes all of your policies around business continuity, around disaster recovery, around everything you could possibly imagine. And while there's not like a sustainability one, your plans to make sure that those policies are in place and have been practiced and demonstrable, the cost of implementing them, or cost of heaven forbid something happen where you do have to spin some things up, does have sustainability elements to it in terms of what's the most efficient way to get up and to stay sustainable and palatable. So there's obviously the business results for us, but I see it all the time weaved in to the compliance and policy side, as well.
So something I've seen, I think when I hear about a company getting involved and doing work where they're starting to have a sustainability or environmental goals, I a lot of time I get concerned, especially as I'm hearing them or I start kind of digging in and thinking it starts to feel more like a branding effort or a marketing effort. Um, versus something that's really driving product strategy or impact or having a positive impact on product strategy. So how do you ensure sustainability isn't just that branding effort, that that's truly embedded with product decisions and to that thing that Chris wants to get rid of, aligned with that North Star goal?
So for us, at least my plans for the next product plans, usually it's about putting it in your strategy guidelines. Like even before, like you know how when you do product discovery, you have those grids of like warrior customer base, what are the features that you want implemented, what's the benefit for the company. Like you have to put the environment as your stakeholder now, in a way. Like how do you actually get the people, the software engineers, the product designers, everyone in your team to actually have it as part of your conversation, not just a one-off, but like in your actual retros, you have to discuss how is this helpful to the, like how is this beneficial, not just in terms of money or dollar value that we're gonna get in the next 2 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
Paul?
We're fortunate in that, um, our product is dedicated to the circular economy, to enabling elements of the circular economy, which is by definition part of the sustainability effort. So, you know, it's part of, our, I think the broader answer to your question is, it's a part of our company values and our company kind of platform objectives, to, make that as efficient and as easy and as non-complex to be able to implement, and to use. Um, you know, just to, just for everyone out there, there's an old documentary, called The End of Ownership. It's based, on I forget his name. He's a Dutch, engineer and product guy, and it's on Netflix. I think you can still get it. And it actually, a few of us, it was actually our early inspiration, for a lot of the things that we do now. And you'll see there, like the idea of keeping things going as long as possible, without wasting them, is, we just translated that into a digital product, and so for us, that's how we keep it at the core of what we do. So it's not just a marketing effort. Now, for our clients, to their credit, it's usually, getting back to tying the business goals to sustainability. Obviously, we sell a platform. We're a for-profit company, and we want them to use our platform, to enable upgrade programs. And upgrade programs are good for, in the business side, they're great for customer relationships. They're good for lifetime value of customers. All these metrics that you want to make sure you have to, to hire someone like us and to build your business, whether it be on the consumer side or the commercial side. But underneath is that, additional benefit of that, keeping things out of the waste, and keeping things, in the secondary markets as long as possible to reduce the waste and keep sustainability high in the metrics.
How is sustainability beneficial to lifetime value?
Oh, so I would say, okay, there's a few answers to that, right? So let me start with the nuts and bolts in my estimation, in the nuts and bolts way. So when I say sustainability in the context of our programs, it's in the context of kind of upgrade and trade-in programs, right? And so from a customer perspective, if I'm a retailer and I sell you a computer, or I shouldn't even say sell, you're able to subscribe to a computer. So you're paying X dollars a month for a computer, software, accessories, warranty, whatever, for 2 years. At the end of that 2 years, you're getting another computer. So from a pure retailer perspective, that repeat purchase is guaranteed in a couple of years. The cycle of refreshment is faster for the OEM, and then again, from a upgrade perspective. Now, the benefit is that that's a sustainable practice, because what happens is the customer returns that computer, buys a new one, or subscribes to a new one. That old computer then, through partners with asset disposition companies, secondary markets, gets put out into the secondary market, not into e-waste, not into anywhere else, so that it gets resold to whomever wants is okay with a couple-year-old computer, whether it be a person like myself getting something for my teenage son, or or schools or what have you. So it's sustainability. Now you can then decide, and I think this is where, getting back to that question, you can decide from a communications perspective to push on that. Like, hey, forget the fact that this is an upgrade program. This is hey, we Merchant X are really driving sustainability for this upgrade program. Some take that tact. Some take the, hey, this is just a low monthly payment way to get great equipment and refresh it every couple of years, every year, 2 years, 3 years, et cetera. But underneath that, it's a sustainable practice, and it just happens to translate into repeat purchases and all those types of things.
I've heard so many bad things about technology being recycled or reused. Like, how do you make sure that that's working as advertised? I've seen enough 60 minutes,
at the end of the day,
episodes, et cetera, on this topic.
At the end of the day, for us, it's picking the right partners, because we're a software company, but we align with lots of different partners to support the, thinking of that end of the spectrum, the asset disposition piece, the logistics piece, all of those elements that make it easy for the customer. But to your exact point, absolutely, it's making sure that they are not a company that has some hidden dump site in the middle of the Pacific Ocean somewhere, all those type of things. So yeah, absolutely. Is everyone in that business, above board? No, they're not. So it's up to us as an enabler of that, or I should say enabler as a partner of that, to make sure that we're working with the right folks, and we're very happy to say that we have over the years.
Gotcha.
But
Chris,
great point. It's one everyone should have.
Yeah.
I'd like to offer a different perspective, albeit a little bit radical. I'm a avid fan of Patagonia, and here's why. Besides the fact that they have really cool and comfy aesthetic sports or whatever wear in the Bay Area. But so, for example, my backpack zipper one time broke from Patagonia. They actually don't encourage you to buy a new backpack. They ask you to ship it back. You only pay the shipping fee, and then they repair the zipper for you, and it's like a lifetime warranty. Now, in action, I haven't seen that applied to the hardware industry, where they encourage you. It has such a short life cycle. They encourage you to buy a new computer every 2 years, and it's up to the government and private sectors, back to Jeremy's point, to properly recycle everything. So wouldn't it be great if the hardware industry could take a page out of Patagonia and encourage people to sort of repair their computers rather than buying new computers? Then they can target this affluent market and then have so many more margins and yet provide better service, which is Patagonia definitely marks up their products, but they're able to make enough profits to be able to be somewhat of a sustainable company.
I like that. I didn't realize that. I knew Canada Goose had some of that. I didn't realize Patagonia was doing similar type of work. Are any of you familiar with a company called Framework? They create modular laptops. They did their first modular desktop. Like I think in that vein of what you're talking about there, Chris, and they've made it so that you can really upgrade every single part of your computer, even like what ports are on the computer and how the whole thing works. Then their big things is in the laptop space. They just started doing some desktop, but they're I think leading the way, and from what I see in that whole modular upgradable computer. Like you could just replace any single part of your laptop if you want. They'll just ship you the parts, and you can actually just build the whole laptop yourself if you're looking for a weekend project. So that's another one that I'm familiar with there. Do anyone else know of other companies that are encouraging similar types of repairs? be kind of curious to hear.
I guess that's how it was, right? Like computers used to be modular. We can buy our own RAM, we buy our own hard drives. People are just not doing it anymore. So
It's so hard to do now. Like you have to deal with wattages and voltages and making sure the parts fit and drive. Like it's,
yeah.
I think even those things are more standard nowadays. Because I had to replace my computer during one of the shows it killed itself. I had to replace all the parts, and it's I think in the past it used to be a little bit easier. I felt like, oh, I'll just grab a new graphics card and drop it in. But now it's I need a graphics card, but now I need a motherboard that can handle the new graphics card. And then do I have the right memory? What speed is it? There's a lot more nuance, and there's also a lot of just variability in quality of the different products. Like what's the new issue? And so it just if you don't want to spend weeks and weeks doing something and then troubleshooting it, often it's just better to buy the whole thing that works together. That's kind of what I think the appeal of the framework thing is. But I hear you. I don't know if I have that kind of patience anymore. Chris, what is the toughest challenge you faced in making a product more sustainable?
I'll just be direct. I was only a volunteer, and I was working more on the office and our organizational policies, not so much on shaping, our products to become more sustainable. My clients had teams that have managed that, but I didn't directly, work on that. To be clear, I do work with the infrastructure team, but I'm not directly involved.
Paul, let's go over to you.
Yeah, so for us, let me answer it in two ways. So with the Ford, because we put together these upgrade programs, the biggest challenge, we've gotten better at it over the years, but it's still boxes we need to check, and comes with its own set of issues, which is what's the right kind of communications and pricing model to put in place, for these programs. And there's a lot of moving parts at all times, depending upon the product, depending upon the market, because we operate globally, depending upon the financial arrangement that's underpinning the subscription or the products. And so, dealing with everything and this is real wonky, but dealing with everything from, how do you apply, what's the residual value? Like how much life is left in this given product? What are the logistics that are going to be in place to get that back? How should the merchant or the OEM price it so it's to the customer? It's a no-brainer for the customer, but the margin's still there for everyone else. So those, and again, we've been you get kind of formulaic over the years, but it's never the same each time. So it's a happy challenge, because that means we're trying to make it good for everyone. But that is always that business model. I'll say the business model nuance is usually the last hurdle to come over as we're putting programs into place.
Gotcha.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, go ahead.
I didn't realize you were talking about sustainability in the long-term durability and profitability sense. Then I have more to share. I was involved with pricing model, running pricing experiments, also looking at cohort analysis and lifetime value, and offering coupons and seeing which regions where price elasticity would work, and what types of pricing would work for which I also worked on SaaS similar to Paul, so I had to optimize the page based on which tiers would be most appealing to which segments. And in terms of long-term sustainability, it goes back to what Paul was saying, looking at margins and profitability and working with the finance team to ensure that what we're putting out long term, especially nowadays, I think investors are looking more and more at, whether something will be profitable long term. And there's a number of, resources out there that I would recommend, including the Profit Model Canvas, that you can
I
look.
guess what I'm not following is the connection of profitability to sustainability goals, environmental goals that you're talking about.
Okay, beyond what I shared, I don't know how, I have very much to share on that. That one's a little more tricky. That's the $1 million question.
So Paul, Carol, what sort of trends, or innovations are you seeing that you think will have the biggest impact on sustainability, ESG, in the next 5 years beyond? Let me start with
So
you. Yeah, go
I
ahead,
guess
Carol.
in terms of we're talking about, obviously, AI is like everyone's been talking about it, and in the past couple of years, everyone's been screaming data is the new oil. But when we talk sustainability, data is not really oil because it's shit. Most of it is garbage. So I guess we do need to like be more mindful about all the data that we're keeping, storing, what is valuable in terms of your terabytes of data. What do you really need long term, right? Like if you need an AI platform, do you even need people's hair color when you're trying to do predictive modelings? So
So
yeah, just be mindful.
what about on the other side, the flip side of that? Like, what about we're looking for positive trends and innovations that'll have a positive impact on sustainability and ESG goals. Paul?
Yeah, I think there's a couple that we're seeing. I think, and this is going to be, this is we've been seeing this for the past couple of years. We're really going to see it going forward as we all are facing some economic headwinds, which is kind of customers' demands for affordability and where that translates for us, and where we see it in real time is that demand for affordability, but maintaining quality, is what I was mentioning before, which is the use of secondary markets, the use of refurbished, again, we're in this space, so refurbished devices, et cetera. So that's one, and I see that, for good or for bad, like really accelerating over the next, definitely over the next couple of years. The other thing that I see is, and this is, it's, I'm with Carol. Like, you don't want to just overuse AI, but for us, what we're seeing is a leveraging AI for stronger personalization of matching products to people's values and goals, right? So, and it's sustainability depending upon where you are, from what products and services. If I as the retailer or I as an OEM can match what kind of AI has helped me devise, it's better, right? And your value goals for your products and the ones that you want to spend money on, that's part of the personalization engine that engines, I should say, there's not one, part of the personalization engines that really span a couple of things. It spans business development, it spans marketing, it spans obviously, just communications. So that's one, again, we're seeing in real time, like that is actually kind of occurring today, which is, what's the messaging that you're giving to customers, and how do you know which messaging goes best with each customer? And again, personalization has been around for a while, but I think you see it being supercharged with new AI tools.
Gotcha. Those are great to point out there. And yeah, it's hard to get away from AI nowadays, huh? So I'm gonna put a pin in this topic. If other people have other questions regarding sustainability, ESG, otherwise, drop them in the comments. We'll do our best to after the show to get to them and try to, maybe we can talk more about them or spin up something else. But with that said, we're going to transition over. This is between our two topics, so that means it's time for trivia. And so I'm going to ask the question. I'll say it nice and clearly. However, feel free to talk amongst yourselves about the question, but not the answer. So even if you're in the audience, if you're in the off-screen roundtable, please don't post the answer to the question. We will get to it at the end of the show. But feel free to say other things about the question, but not the answer. So with that said, let's check out today's trivia question. Which popular app started as a whiskey-inspired check-in platform? Once again, which popular app started as a whiskey-inspired check-in platform? All right. So with whiskey on the mind, I guess for me, for after the show, we've got a good trivia question there. So if you think you know it, you're listening from your computer, you're the off camera. Definitely stick around, because we'll be seeing who on the roundtable knows the answer to this question, as well as who in the audience or the off camera roundtable knows as well, and they'll go into those answers. And so with that said, we're gonna move into our second topic of the show here today, and that's we're want to again moving a little bit beyond sustainability. I want to talk a little bit about building durable products in a competitive landscape. How do you build products that last? And I mean, in the digital sense, with your customers, with your user base. Maybe also, I'm happy to also explore in the physical sense and the hardware, and maybe even like lean into some of those environmental topics as before. But really, what are those competitive plans, those strategies for long-term success? I don't mean 2 years, 5 years. I mean long-term success. So let's start off with let me just kick it off. Throw a ball up in the air. See who wants to grab it. So what separates products that last from those that fade? I'm throwing this out to Paul, Chris, and Carol.
Sure.
Who wants to grab it?
I'll start off, and everyone can chime. Yeah, I'll start off. I mean, to me, it's simplicity. To me, like any product that is going to be used and continue to be used has to be simple to the user. I've been on all sides of this spectrum. I've created very simple products that have been successful. I've created products that I thought were simple and were not as successful. I've used products that I love because of their simplicity. And at the end of the day, as a customer or user, I don't care how hard it was to build. I don't care how hard it is to maintain. I care that if I push a button and I expect X to happen, X happens, and I don't have to worry about it. And so to me, that is the number one item that for a durable, long-lasting, popular product. Again, I've always spent most of my time in the B2B space. The same for me, whether it's B2B or B2C. To me, that's the core feature, or the core benefit, I should say.
What are some of those simple products that you've got in your mind there?
So again, I'm biased because I've been in the fintech space for so long. It's hard. So one I will say that to me encompasses taking something that's incredibly complex and made it ridiculously simple for everyone else, and as a result, is a multi-billion-dollar company right now is Stripe. Stripe started off, the two Irish guys, creating the little drop-in code. And when you look at their initial product, this is going back obviously many years, it was not, from a coding perspective, it wasn't a lot there. But you understand, payments are always difficult. They're always challenging. I don't care who you talk to. And the fact that they were able to encompass simplicity of not only its behavior and performance, but simplicity, most importantly, of integration and activation for the users, to me, and it showed, because it exploded and has gone ridiculously, sorry Carol, viral over the years, to the point where it's a real business. And the other one I'll say, I'm sorry to take up two, but I just learned about this product literally this morning. I am now obsessed with learning more about it. It's called Lovable. It's an AI builder that basically you just type in English what you want, and it in real time, or basically within 30 seconds to a minute, delivers the code for non-coders of prototypes, like immediately. It has generated, apparently, got up to 4 million ARR in 4 weeks, 10 million ARR in 60 days, one of the most fastest growing products in all of Europe's history. And I just learned about it this morning from Lenny's podcast. It's another great podcast if anyone doesn't listen to it. And I need to start using it because their whole goal was, hey, I have, for those founders, et cetera, that have ideas but always struggle to find, the technical talent they need to make their vision come to life. This is, that step. And it's AI driven, obviously, but it's for kind of the non-coding set as opposed to like a Bolt or some of the others. So those are the two that I found are on top of my list right now.
Yeah, same question to you, Chris and Carol. What separates products that last from those that fade?
I really like, because you mentioned earlier, Jeremy, the word strategies in your question. I really like the jobs to be done growth strategy matrix. And in that matrix, the category that most likely will ensure durability, I think, is better and more expensive. And here's why. This particular category, it's going to appeal to underserved markets. And so there's aspects like higher quality, reliability, and durability, because you're going to have higher quality materials and components. The companies that target this underserved segment focus on products that are reliable and long lasting, and then underserved customers that opt for more expensive solutions are going to have higher expectations. Going back to what I was saying earlier about Patagonia and high-end products. So I would say that's pretty much the answer to your question.
Oliver question. Carol?
Yeah, I guess for me it's interesting. I might have to have more questions than answers. So I guess when we're talking durability, what automatically comes to mind is like BlackBerry and Nokia, which is obviously not even existing anymore today. But when we're talking about software, it's usually software that's like being updated all the time, which in terms of durability, I don't know if we're saying that these are products that are the same when they were implemented like 2 years ago, right? So they obviously pivot, they iterate, they change. So something that's adapting to the trend or to the ways of the world, right? Like something like Patagonia would probably not make that much marketing buzz 10 years, 50, 20 years ago, but now they're like one of the big companies in terms of the Gen Zs, the millennials are loving this kinds of products.
Gotcha. How do you decide whether to reinvent a product or improve a product? When should a product evolve versus when should teams resist that change and just kind of focus on the fundamentals and maybe, to the way Paul was describing it, keep it simple?
Yeah, I guess
Well,
in terms of sorry, go ahead.
Now, Carol, you
go,
take
Carol.
it first, and then I'll go to Paul.
Yeah, I guess it's really up to your metrics, right? Usually you know what your goals are. Like if you know that you're gonna reach $200,000 in 2 months, then you're probably okay staying in your current roadmap. But if you're going the other way, you're probably losing $200,000 and it might be time to pivot or to change your direction. But usually you already know what those layers or numbers are or metrics when you're going to be changing courses.
Let me hand it over to you, Paul. And Paul, if you could, someone was asking if you could just restate what the name of the magical AI code writing product was again for people who are listening.
It's called Lovable, Lovable, and the website is lovable.dev. And I learned about it. I see someone asked the question, what podcast I was mentioning. It's called Lenny's podcast, LENNY ''S podcast. Kind of is a product fintech kind of all kind of board, and he's on Spotify, YouTube, stuff like that.
Yeah, we'll get all that in the show notes. Just Paul, send it to me afterwards, and I'll make sure everyone gets it.
You got it. And then I forgot. I lost my train of thought because I was going to answer your question.
Yeah, so we were talking. Yeah, go
durability.
ahead.
Yeah, I could not agree with Carol more. Like at the end of the day, it's like, what is? And I'm a data geek, so I'm biased, and I'm just I get yelled at by the creatives all the time. But it's like, what's your data telling you is working or not working in terms of iterating on your product. Now, I separate that though from, you can't look inside completely. As a leader, or as a business leader, et cetera, you also have to look at what's the macro world telling you, where's the industry moving, and sometimes your data is not going to tell you that in terms of your exact usage. So that is kind of in parallel. You have to be looking at, okay, in a year, where is the industry going to need? And those are research and bets, right, at the end of the day. So the combination of those two things are what, but again, it's still data at the end of the day. One's just kind of forward-looking data, one's kind of backward-looking data, to understand, like, okay, where do we want to go next? What do we want to iterate, or do we want to even create another version, and go that direction?
So I always have fun kind of trying to debunk some myths. What are some myths about product longevity, about product durability, that you think need to be debunked? Chris.
Sometimes I wonder whether every product needs to be durable or long term.
Oh wow, really going into the core of that one.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, I'm just wondering at one point you really have to let go of your baby. You have to sunset it because of whatever reasons, whether it's profitability or customer expectations have changed, and then you may have to let a different product in your product portfolio cannibalize that product because it's just not working out. So I don't know if I'm even answering your question, but that's one thing to just consider.
I like it. I wasn't thinking about it from that perspective, but I think it's an important perspective. Sometimes the best thing to do to your product is to take it out back and shoot it. Any other what other are there other, so that's an interesting take on the myths out there. What are some other myths? What are some things that people assume makes a product successful for the long term, but actually doesn't?
Yeah, I would say, and Carol was hitting on this earlier, products adapt and change, et cetera, over time. So one myth that, as you go through your experience as a product, developer or manager or leader, you kind of learn this over time, that one of the myths is, like, a product doesn't need to be perfect to release it or to ship it. And I think we all learned that lesson maybe early in our careers, that I probably wasted more cycles earlier in my career, like just trying to get it like perfect, working with the tech team, them getting mad at me, and before it kind of gets pushed out. Whereas later you learn, hey, listen, whether you call it an MVP, whether you call it the alpha or a beta, whether you call it a pilot, whatever you want to call it, get it out and start measuring it. Figure out, like, make sure it does like the 2 or 3 things that you want it to do. Make sure it does what it's supposed to do. That it's not going to break. But at the same time, I'm sorry, Jeremy. Whatever your roadmap may have said, but those 10
Today's
things, don't worry
weather
about them.
product weather forecast.
For the weather forecast is going to tell you is get it out there and start iterating on it. Otherwise, you're going to embed a lot of cost, a lot of time, a lot of wasted time. In the worst case scenario, someone bypasses you, your investors get mad, or your leaders get mad. So to me, a myth is that everything needs to be perfect to ship. It just needs to be good, and then start figuring out what you want to add into the next version.
All right, so I'm gonna put words in your mouth. Tell me if I'm saying it correctly. So what you're saying, the way you're connecting MVP to durability, is that I guess you're coming at it from the perspective of, and again, correct me if I'm twisting it incorrectly, that you're connecting it to MVP through the if you take too long to get that product out there, it's not going to last because you're wasting too many cycles to get your V1 out there. You're wasting too many cycles on each of your iterations if you're if you are not trying to get it out there early and often. Is that kind of the gist of what you're saying there, or
Yeah, I think
something
that's the
different?
gist. And I would add to that you know, prior to that, you have to really, and this is the non-technical side of it from a business objective standpoint, like what are you trying to accomplish? What's the problem you're solving? And it probably takes, I'm making every product's different, but say, in your ideal world, in your ideal brain, it's 10 things that need to do. But really there's a core 3, let's call it that it needs to accomplish. From a durability standpoint, you could spend a ton of time getting to all those 10, but you don't know if all those 10 are really necessary for the market. But if you get it out there with those first 3, then you're out there in the wild. And this goes back to me wanting to get rid of War Room and bring in Classroom. You will learn more by it being out in the wild. Again, whether it's a B2B or B2C product, make sure your assumptions for those first 3 are correct. Make the adjustments that you need to make. And again, the tools are there to do that, iterate pretty fast these days. And then you can start adding, 4 through 10, over time. So the durability comes by continuously testing your assumptions and testing the product stability and capability and acceptance while you are, looking at the full kind of objective of what you're trying to accomplish.
Chris, what do you think? What, from your perspective, and over the years, what kills a product's competitive edge faster than anything else? Or what's the number one mistake that a product manager can make to cause a product to lose relevance in a competitive market? I know there's not just one, but
Yeah.
what's the top 1 or 2 that come to mind for you?
So what I've observed over the years is that, the market incumbents become complacent and they're not attuned to what Paul was saying, constantly evolving or adapting to the current market conditions. And that means not leaving it to one phase, discovery at the very beginning, but continuously discovering, continuously adapting, not relegating it to that. And that comes in through continuously running customer interviews and usability tests and understanding underlying user needs, going back to what I was sharing earlier, jobs to be done. And if you are not actively, and this is a common problem, believe it or not, getting out of the building, now is probably a good time to do so, because you'll be making a lot of assumptions that are untested, and that's going to be that will definitely kill your competitive edge. Because if you don't really know what the competition, one thing is you have to think about where are markets, being underserved. What is unique about the product that you're bringing to the table? You can look at things like value proposition canvas and come out with a product that really serves what your customers are looking for, and that is hard to accomplish if you don't have a really well-formed strategy and thoughts about how to evolve your product continuously. So that's been my experience and thinking.
Carol, same question to you. Beyond complacency, what are some actions that product managers make that result in product losing relevance in their market?
I think this was actually mentioned a while ago by Chris as well. Like falling too much in love with your product is probably one of the biggest problems that we run into. Like we have a hypothesis. Sometimes you're just so hell bent on the solution that you already, you know, put in the words in your customers' mouths. Yeah, so like you already know it's time to sunset your baby, but you can't let go, right? So that's gonna cost you a lot more money in the next 3 years trying to resuscitate it.
Paul, what's a feature that has outlived its usefulness but still won't die? Like what's one product feature that you see maybe in many companies or in a product that but companies just refuse to kill, and even though it's no longer valuable. Maybe it's a product you like, maybe it's a pattern you're seeing out there.
Oh wow, that's a oh my goodness. Well, you know what? This may be mean, um, because not everyone's had time to implement. I know we don't want to use over AI and all this kind of stuff. However, I think and I think solely relying on um, email as a feedback mechanism is needs to be sunset. There's enough chat tools and enough simple to create agents and things like that these days that from a satisfying your customer perspective, you can be much more dynamic. Even if it doesn't answer all the questions, at least it can get some of the easy ones out first in a more dynamic way than just having someone send in a form and kind of have to wait when they have a problem kind of now, right? That's the whole reason they're reaching out to you. So I think it's kind of mean, and like we even have improvement to do there as ourselves, and I fight that internal battle. But like it is, to me, that's as a customer and a user, that is that frustrates me even today, regardless actually for physical products and digital products, and that's where I'm at. I may be harsh, but I couldn't.
Don't you see don't you see email though as kind of like that personal touch where people can give more of a personal critique? They're not just clicking on a form or being directed to an FAQ.
I mean, there's something to be said for that, but there's a lot of better tools, I think, to be able to provide that feedback. And I guess part of it is, part of what I may be talking about. I mean, there's the front end piece, right, which is email as a mechanism, but there's also the back end piece, right, which is how is it received and organized and acted upon, right, by the recipient company. And that's a fair point. Like as long as if they're doing it on that side and they're aggregating those comments and it goes into a tool, like if it just sits in an inbox somewhere, it's more or less useless, right? But if it gets rooted to the right buckets of product improvements or ops improvements or financial, whatever the case may be, and that gets translated into it. I know we're all product folks here, and that gets translated into like kind of the right tickets and cards that can be acted upon and chosen. Then that's great, because that is almost the mechanism by which they got there is almost irrelevant. If a form's easy for a customer, great. But it's that second piece really that I guess that's where my frustration really sometimes gets, when it's just an inbox of that someone hopefully gets to. And the best companies in the world have big, long email boxes that are full of stuff that they haven't yet, addressed. And that to me is the point of frustration.
Yeah, and I'm not opposed to other formats like chat agents and that kind of stuff. I guess not the agent part. The chat I'm okay with. But I tell you, anytime I find myself in a chat where I can finally do some typing, all I'm typing is person, in the hopes that I get to talk to.
Well, you hit the nail on the head. That has to be an option.
Like
you're right. That has to be an option. People get better at that.
Yeah, just before this, I was on Amazon, screwed up another package on me, and so I was on their customer support, just going, "Oh my God, what button can I click to just get to a text field so I can just type person," and like, because there's no viable. They give me 15 options. None of them make sense. None of them will do what I want, and they know that. So yeah. I come from I'm not angry, but I'm perturbed.
You have their number?
Yeah.
I call them up all the time if you need their number.
No, it's not even the number. Like I just like. If it was an email, I'd be fine with that too. Like, cause I need to kind of operate a little bit asynchronously. I'm working on one thing, or I'm having a conversation with someone else. I'm trying to get this done, or maybe I'm like at that time I was trying to help get the kids set up for something, and so like while I'm having that conversation with my son, I'm trying to deal with support. Like I'd be fine with, like in that case, I'm fine with an email if they're replying to it, but I'm on the chat, but I'm just like click, like, oh my God, like. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be there. Sorry, this is just my own personal life now that we're into it. Maybe we should start just evaluating that. The can't. I know we kind of touched on this, but I wanted to maybe do a double click into it. Can a product be too durable for its own good? Have you seen a product that's lasted too long and it's become a liability for the company? Like, is there a specific product you can think of?
Nokia phones.
Wait, they still exist?
No, not anymore. So it killed
All
their
right.
own-
Well, that's not really yes. Other things that actually still exist. Chris, Paul.
I don't want to hate on too many companies, but I think we probably can unanimously agree that the Yahoo portal might have outlived its usefulness.
Oh, wow, you're going there. You're going in the land of Nokia for that answer, huh?
Well, I mean, I think it doesn't fit well with the modern American sensibilities anymore. The user experience is just super cluttered. And unfortunately, they have not evolved with the times. And then another, organization that I really used to love a lot, and I think you'll all agree, I really loved Meetup. And unfortunately, it got acquired, and it's gotten just so buggy and jacked up all the prices. But I don't know if they shut it down. I don't know what we would do. I guess we would all move to Facebook groups, but no, I guess that's a no. But I don't expect them to evolve, unfortunately, because they do seem overly focused on getting their revenues and profits in order, the new acquiring company. So unfortunately, I've seen a lot of meetup groups just disband or dissolve after the new takeover. So
all right, so I gotta put my 2 cents in on this one. So I created the product group, which is kind of what TPG Live derives from. I created the product group in August of 2009, and on August 31st of 2009, I went on to meetup.com and created the product group. Basically, same logo, almost all the same copy that you see there today. On the Meetup page. So meetup.com/the product group, and now it's also part of a giant global network of local chapters. I'd say in the first couple of years they would update the product, you get new features, and I met with their head of product back then, and there were some really cool approaches to product management that they were doing, some really interesting, unique processes, and they were making some progress. That said, if I go to let's say I haven't looked at it most recently, but let's say at the mid last year, and this is after that acquisition, mid last year, I could still go to the administrative sections of the Meetup chapters, and they looked identical to 2009. Which is a completely different skin. It's a completely different look and feel than what you see there today. But for anyone who was nostalgic for what it used to look like in 2009, that's what you see on a lot of those pages. And I mention that because in the context of the new owners of the product, I actually have seen them making some improvements. I don't think it's obvious. I don't know that it's obvious to the user, like the attendees of the meetups. I'm not happy about the pricing. Pricing has made things a little bit trickier to manage all the different chapters of the product group. That's why, by the way, if you want to help support, if you go to patreon.com/theproductway, that helps support and keep these meetups going. So I really appreciate anyone who can support us there. Patreon.com/theproductway. And you get a lot of great content too. It's not just supporting the meetups, but there's a lot of great content, exclusive content. But they've been doing a lot of they have been doing improvements, and I'll tell you one of the improvements, which doesn't sound like an improvement, but meetup.com, you can send direct messages to people. I haven't been able to receive a direct message in 5 years. People send them to me. I can't read them. For the first time ever, last week, I was able to read a message. And I mentioned that because in the context of the new owners of the product, I actually have seen them making some improvements. I don't think it's obvious. I don't know that it's obvious to the user, like the attendees of the meetups. I'm not happy about the pricing. Pricing has made things a little bit trickier to manage all the different chapters of the product group. That's why, by the way, if you want to help support, if you go to patreon.com/theproductway, that helps support and keep these meetups going. So I really appreciate anyone who can support us there. Patreon.com/theproductway. And you get a lot of great content too. It's not just supporting the meetups, but there's a lot of great content, exclusive content. But they've been doing a lot of on meetup.com. So for me, that's wonderful. I can read it and I can finally reply. And it's a little sad to see all the messages I wasn't able to reply to over the past 5 years or so once I got in there. But I think they are starting to make improvements. Um, they've I'm not so interested about their bug fixes. I'm not so interested about some of their other technology stuff. But like on the back end, some of the analytics is working a little bit better. Some of the tools so that I can see who the members are working a little bit better. So there's incremental marginal improvements here and there. Like I'd love to, if anyone from Meetup.com's listening, I have a feature list that I'd like to send you. And I can see that they're starting to do it, but I also I know how the system. I know I have a very good sense as to what the system looks like from the people that I've known over the years, and I think doing any improvements to that back end is impressive. I don't know. It has to be a complete mess of a code base and a complete mess of all these acquisitions they did and mushed everything together that should never have been put together. But anyway, if anyone from Meetup.com's listening, I can give you a thing. I guess to the reason I wanted to jump in is I do think they are starting to make some improvements. I would say that there are no good viable alternatives. I've tested lots of other. Excuse me. I've tested a lot of other platforms. I will not use Facebook. I will not use Twitter. I've tested a lot of other platforms. None of them, to this point, that I've experimented with, have the reach, have the ability to drive user growth like Meetup.com. I will test anything someone sends me, and I will give it a go. But I haven't found anything to be as effective as Meetup.com. Unfortunately, especially due to the pricing. I'm prime for going to a new platform if someone wants to grab me.
You're not liking. What do you think about LinkedIn Live and LinkedIn Groups?
Well, you're on LinkedIn Live right now.
Yeah.
Say hi. Say hello to everyone. LinkedIn Groups has never been a very highly engaging space. It's not. It doesn't drive the kind of growth that Meetup does. Like at the end of the day, I want new people to find out about the group. I want people to come to the shows. I want people to come to the in-person events. And I haven't found anything that can deliver like Meetup.com. Again, I'm not trying to. I am definitely not trying to do an ad for them. I'm just giving my honest 2 cents. If I thought they needed to be shut down yesterday, I would say that. But then if they did, I don't know how my chapters would run. So that would create a whole different headache. Or maybe it's time for a vacation. I've been doing it since 2009. So
there you go.
Any other products that folks that Paul or Paul, Carol, any other products that you wanted to call out for being? I think Paul, you haven't weighed in on this one yet.
Yeah. For me, Evernote was at the top of that list. I know.
Okay.
I used to be a big Evernote user. I know they were acquired. I think was it 2022, 2023, somewhere around there, and it has changed fundamentally. You couldn't use it on multiple devices. The pricing structure changed. It just became basically unusable. I basically just stopped using it because if I can't use it on multiple devices without jumping through hoops, it's all but useless to me. So that's one that I loved it. I used it all the time, and now basically I just shifted to OneNote, Notion, and those to now fill the gap. So I know they're trying to reboot and reformat and all that kind of stuff, but they lost, I think, a lot of probably. I'm sure I'm not alone. They've lost a lot of users and now trying to rebuild it back. So that's one for me.
Yeah, my thought was Zoom. I know I still have to attend Zoom meetings and I do stuff on Zoom, but I don't know why I want to, why it makes sense. There's so many other better platforms, whether I'm recording a video or meeting with someone. Like if you're on Google, just Google Meet, it's integrated. Like why do I have to use another platform or pay for another service when I've got all these others for free? Or if I need the higher quality, I'll pay for the higher quality stuff. I don't know. That's what I think. I don't know if I don't know if I'm out of step on that one. what will define the most resilient products in the next decade? What's one thing today's product teams should be doing differently to build products that will hopefully be relevant in the next 10 years? Carol, we'll go to you for that one.
Yeah, I guess in terms of in the next couple of years, everyone still needs to be adaptable, right? Like again with AI, like everything's just changing so fast. Like the advancements in technologies, like
Well, we
tenfold.
can assume everyone needs to be dynamic and adaptable. Like, what's something that people need to product teams actually need to do? What do they need to do differently?
Yeah, I guess they do need to use AI. I guess like when it comes to figuring out how customers would be in the next couple of years, try to communicate with chatbots in terms of like how are we gonna end up with agents actually utilizing our platforms in the next 5 years. Before, we used to stop robots from accessing our websites. Now we have to make sure that it's accessible by AI in the next year. So that's going to be something that everyone needs to learn.
Got you. Anyone else have anything they want to add on durability, or we can even go back to sustainability? Anyone have anything they want to add on either of those topics before I shift us over to the next segment?
Sure. I'll just add one thing. Oh, sorry. Go, Chris.
Paul, you go first, and then I got Chris.
Okay.
Oh, sure. So I would say, I guess this is on the durability side, but it's not so much on the product durability side, but it's in the, I'd call kind of the team organization or kind of team approach style. I think the best product teams, and I'll say the best product and tech and marketing teams, I think they're going to, those that are more kind of cross-pollinated, and those that have individuals that have more than one skill set. So even if you consider yourself an engineer, you should still be able to talk to customers. If consider yourself a product person, you should still be able to understand the finance and et cetera. Because I think to Carol's point that, that adaptability and iteration is critical, but it shouldn't fall to just that department or this department. I think that, with kind of, I mentioned the tool Lovable, but that kind of AI-based code generation is coming, but that doesn't do the work for you in the sense of making sure that the product fills a gap, making sure that it is ultimately deployed correctly, making sure that the customers like it correctly. So I think more cross-functional approach to team organization, to me, I think is a critical one for going forward, and not just with small companies where it happens almost kind of by default, but as well as for larger companies as well.
Gotcha. Chris, you had something to say?
Yes. So there's going to be largely a shift from Scrum to Kanban, since AI doesn't work very well with sprints and often conflicts each other. Also, more removing of humans in the loop and increased automation. Vibe coding will democratize both coding as well as product management. So I guess take that as you.
Wait, what was the I got Scrum is bad for AI. Vibe coding. What was the middle one?
The middle one was removing human in the loop and increased automation.
All right, hold on a second. Hold on.
Okay.
I can't just leave it as that. First, for those who don't know, vibe coding is when you're kind of, as a developer, you're working in an IDE or development environment, and AI is helping to write. You're leveraging AI to write a lot of the code, some of the code. They're calling that vibe coding. That's some wacky terminology there, and that'll never come to bite them in the butt. But hold on. Scrum is bad for AI? Is incompatible with AI? Please elaborate.
Okay, so AI reduces amount of predictability, and if you're trying to retrofit it, you're trying to retrofit things in a complicated and complex environment, it's going to be very hard. So I don't think it will fit in very well to the 2-week sprint cycles moving forward, at least not 10 years from now. I think Kanban's going to be much more well suited.
So I think I can see a challenge with respect to sprints and AI. I think from a slightly different perspective, in that AI does enable faster iterating. So where I might have had to spend 2 weeks developing an MVP to test out an idea, now I can go use what is it, lovable.dev or
Right.
likable, lovable, one of those.
Yeah, lovable.
Lovable. I can
Lovable.
go use Lovable, spin up my MVP, and get results by tomorrow. So I can definitely go faster. I personally don't know that sprints disappear just because I can go faster, but I can definitely see there's going to be a lot more speed, a lot more ability to learn faster, and get better data for making decisions. I don't know, Paul, Carol, what do you think? Has AI killed Scrum?
Well, we're not really a Scrum shop, so it's hard for me to
Oh man, it's already got you.
to say that. I will say though that yeah, I mean we're a Kanban shop, you know, that's we do everything through that anyway. But I think what it'll do, and you know, from you know, as an engineer or as a product person, I think you can start thinking, and this goes back to what I was saying before about cross functionality or different types of skill sets. You know, even as a junior engineer, you can almost start, you know, don't think of yourself as solely as an engineer, but also think yourself almost as an, you know, as an engineer manager, right? You're managing maybe like 2 or 3 agents that are like spitting out code that you are responsible for kind of getting up to, you know, to the review process. And so I think that, and again, I can't speak to Scrum because I don't really operate in Scrum, but like I can see like that even with that faster ability to get some things out and getting into the review process, you'll still have the review process, right? There's still going to be humans beating it up and humans deciding, you know, to Chris's point, you know, it gets the code out there, but now, okay, what is it going to, does it fit the environment? Does it fit the problem? And what tweaks do I need to make to it and all those type of things? So I think it'll be faster, but I do think it'll still, you know, humans aren't going anywhere. I mean, so in terms of getting things from, you know, idea to, you know, to production.
Carol, do you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I guess that actually kind of makes sense, but I guess it's not gonna kill Scrum, but it's gonna adjust like how we're gonna do Scrum. Like we're probably not gonna ask agents what's your happiness in the past 2 weeks, but there's gonna be different things that you're gonna start asking agents, right? Like you're gonna tell them stories, user stories in a different way as well. You're not gonna talk about like emotions of your users, but like what do I really need? Just straight out tell me, right? So it's gonna change, but maybe not as fast as we're thinking. Like in the next couple of years, it's still gonna be humans in the loop. So agents would probably just assist humans in the next year, but in the next 3 years, maybe it will change. So we're used to change anyways. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the only other thing I want to add on the Scrum thing, and then we'll go to the next segment, is that I think Scrum is killing Scrum. I don't know if it's necessarily AI doing it. Like Scrum's doing a pretty good job at killing itself. Like think of any company, think of anyone who is doing sprints or Scrum. They're operating off a roadmap. That roadmap was set 6 months ago. Their sprints were planned 6 weeks ago, and they were just locked and loaded. And now they're working on the sprint after that. Scrum was supposed to be, I do a sprint. I learn from that sprint. I then plan another sprint based on what I did and what I learned. But because no one wants to take a break between sprints because everything has to happen so quickly, it just becomes waterfall. Or if I want to be generous, it becomes Kanban, but bucketed into sprints. But because you got to design the sprints, you got to load them up, you got to set everything up. You end up like if I want to get 6 weeks ahead, so I get some breathing room, so I could do some strategy or I could talk to some customers. so now you're working on stuff. I don't even know what they're working on in the current sprint because I thought about it 2 months ago. Well, what are you doing now? I don't know. I think Scrum is doing a pretty good job of killing itself. I hear what you're saying. I think it falls. I think the other thing I'd add is I think it falls into that similar vein when you're thinking about AI. When you're thinking about AI and jobs and what the impact on the job market's going to be, I think in some sense, like, sure, a lot of jobs are going to go away, but I think like a lot of new technologies, it doesn't mean that it's a net loss. It just could be that it's in a form that we don't yet recognize, that we don't yet understand what they're going to fully look like. When we went from horses to cars, it didn't mean there were less jobs. There's more jobs, but a lot of jobs that no one ever heard of before. And so I think we're probably approaching that, and I think the form of product management will change. I think a lot of the structure and the purpose and the function of everyone's roles will change, but I don't know. And I think maybe Scrum falls in that, but like I said, Scrum's probably going to kill itself anyway. But anyway, with that, on that happy note of frameworks killing themselves, maybe AI doing it too. It's time to revisit our trivia segment here. And for those who have forgotten, because it's been such a wonderful show, we've covered so much ground. If you've forgotten the trivia question, let me replay it for you right now.
Which popular app started as a whiskey-inspired check-in platform? Once again, which popular app started as a whiskey-inspired check-in platform?
All right. So let me go around the room. If you happen to know and you're in the off-camera part of our roundtable, feel free to drop it in the comments. I'll keep an eye over there. Let me just look around the room here. Carol, Chris, Paul, anyone have a guess? Guesses are welcome. You can't get hurt by guessing.
Yeah, I do actually. I mean, I'm a Scotch drinker, so I think I have the right answer because I used this app when it was this, but stopped using it when it changed. So I think it's Untapped.
Okay.
Because it used to be a whiskey check-in, but now it's like a beer enthusiast social network type thing, and I don't drink beer, but I love whiskey. So I think that's right. I could be wrong, but that's the one I was thinking of.
All right. Chris? Carol?
I haven't drank Scotch in a while.
Remember, it's whiskey inspired.
Is it Foursquare?
That's probably closer now. You're actually a little bit closer there. Chris, you want to take a stab at it?
You've got me.
Oh, that's so sweet. All right. All right. Launched on October 6th of 2010, initially developed as a check-in app called Bourbon. Within 2 months of its pivot away from complexity, it rapidly reached 1 million users. Sold to Facebook for $1 billion in 2012. Instagram is the app that started as a whiskey-inspired, Foursquare-like check-in app.
Wow.
So there you have it. Instagram. You would check in. You could post like what your plans were. So I guess like an itinerary of what you were going to do somewhere or what you did somewhere. But it turned out it was way too complicated to keep developing and building. And when they met with some VCs at some parties, which is the only place to meet good VCs, they got some feedback that there were certain parts of the product they liked. And so they did one of those simplicity pivots and said, hey, let's just do the photo part. Now it's gotten a lot more complicated over time, but it was that key pivot that really just changed everything. And it really didn't have anything to do with whiskey. It was just whiskey inspired in the name. And it was just because one of the founders really liked whiskey and bourbon. And so he named it Bourbon. Literally no other reason. So that gives you a sense of what the tech landscape used to be like back then. You found a whole bunch of letters that you liked the sound of, and that became the name of your app, and it had nothing to do with what the app did. Like it was like I said, it was a little bit more like a Foursquare with a little bit more overhead to it, and Foursquare in its original form, not in whatever data sciencey form it is today. So that said, everyone, thank you so much. Like, this has been a really great roundtable. Does anyone have any final comments? Let me start with you, Paul.
No, just thank you, Jeremy, for having me on. This has been fantastic, and I'm actually not on Blue Sky, but I am on open to anyone who wants to reach out on LinkedIn. Happy to share anything about what we do, and whether it be good for you. But at the overall, I just kind of love hearing about other products, and I'm a constant learner. So feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, Paul Wright, at Lift Forward, and happy to join and help you do it again.
Great. Carol.
Yeah, I guess just to end the note and coming back from a while ago, as a previous software engineer, I also hate happiness meters. But yeah, so yeah, so I think thanks for having us. And yeah.
Chris, final comments from you as well.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. If anyone would like to reach out to me, I'm also on LinkedIn and Blue Sky. And I offer interview coaching for employees at FANG and Mag7, product management more specifically, but other functions as well. Thanks. productcoachlabs.com.
Awesome. Yeah, and we'll get all this stuff into our show notes, so everyone who's RSVP'd will be able to get the show notes, and we'll try to get them out there even more widely. And really, just a big thank you to everyone in the off camera. I've been enjoying reading the comments and the questions. Your engagement, questions, comments really make this podcast special and make it a lot of fun. And I'd also really want to thank our special roundtable today again. Christopher Lee, Product Coach, Senior PM at Product Coach Labs, Carol C., AI Transformation Manager, Paul Wright, VP Global Ecosystem and Analytics at Lift Forward. You guys were awesome. You had a lot of great perspectives. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed hearing what everyone was talking about today, from everything from the challenging impact of AI on sustainability to let's cancel all that business travel, some tips about Patagonia, debate about Meetup, and the AI's attack, not just on our jobs, but on our Scrum. So if anyone is interested in joining the roundtable, please reach out. You can email me at jhorn@theproductguy.com. We'd love to have you on the table. Join us on the roundtable on camera. Everyone, regardless of your background or experience, is welcome. What's key is you have an opinion and you have a good perspective to share. Also, if we're always looking for more topics to cover, if there's certain topics you'd like us to cover that you think we might not have covered in the past, or even if we've covered them in the past and you want us to go into more detail on them, let me know. Drop your topic suggestions, your ideas, your thoughts in the comments below. We'll definitely go and check them out. And I also really have a quick favor to ask everyone who's listening here today, and that's if you had a good time or you learned something or you like what you're seeing here today, please, we would appreciate it if you could like, subscribe, enable notifications, and tell 5 of your friends about the TPG Live podcast. Tell them about the Product Way YouTube channel. We've got a lot of great content on both. I think our channel, we probably have 500-600 videos at this point over the years we've accumulated there. So a lot of great content, a lot of experts, a lot of different formats for you to consume and really dig into, short form, long form. So please subscribe to the channel, spread the word. Really appreciate that. And again, just really thank you again to both our on-camera and our off-camera roundtables for the great wisdom, for the great conversation. It's been an awesome show, awesome time. Thank you for everyone for joining us, and everyone, I'll see you all next time on the next TPG Live.
Thanks for tuning in.
Just one more time, I want to share how you can support this show and gain access to exclusive career-changing resources. For less than the cost of your daily coffee, you'll unlock actionable product management strategies and case studies, proven solutions to real-world challenges, all delivered ad-free. Want to take it up a notch? At $15 a month, you'll get a personal shout-out in an episode and your name in the credits, a great way to showcase your support for our global product management community. For $25 a month, you'll gain priority access to exclusive events, detailed case studies, one-on-one resume feedback, and toolkits tailored to enhance your product management expertise. If you're ready to go all in, subscribe as a product leader and enjoy personalized mentorship sessions and exclusive insights to elevate your career to the next level. Your support makes it possible for us to keep delivering insightful content and building this amazing community of product professionals. So please, head to patreon.com/theproductway and choose the level that's right for you. Every contribution, big or small, makes a huge difference. Thank you so very much for your support.